I got back. I'm sorry I was out, but here I am.
We have had two wonderful interlopers in your absence. Ian Williams from Farm Press Association and Rich Gallant, editor-in-chief of managing editor of CNN Opinion. So
well, let's keep them all here. All right. And we will all ask you questions because it's Friday and we get to do whatever we want.
Yes. Okay.
So let me ask this, because I've been thinking about it, certainly watching what's happening in Washington. And that is, does Biden get a "you're not Trump" bump? Does he get a little bit of room because of who he is?
From whom? From whom?
From foreign adversaries, large and small, from the rest of the world that says, thank God we, not all of them, but there will be some of them who will be very happy that this is over. And I just wondered if you thought so, or our adversaries will be, out with knives, realizing that we have a lot to patch up after a Trump administration.
I think it's not even that we have a lot to patch up, but I think a lot of people are going to be testing these red lines. And I think Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran already has done that in the last 48 hours by, basically saying, you see, this capital thing is an indication of how dysfunctional the United States is to begin with, and so on.
Yes, but they backed off on, they took that Korean ship. They were in a spat with Korea. They could have gone further. You have the idea that they all said to themselves, you know what, let's just wait till after January. Let's not provoke anybody. Let's just see what the offer is. We'll be our bratty selves on occasion, but for the most part, we are waiting. That's my sense of what the Iranians are doing.
Yes, I think to a degree that's absolutely true. And remember, they're also distracted at home by just a horrific pandemic of COVID, unlike really any place else in the world, certainly any place else in the Middle East, and no real way out of it at this point. So they are to a degree distracted. There's no doubt about that. I'm not so sure about that. I'm very encouraged by the fact that the anniversary of the Soleimani assassination went by without any notice. They did not, in fact, launch any missile attacks, which people were afraid of. There were a few rocket attacks on the green zone by some of the Shiite militias in Iraq, but they didn't really amount to much of the beans. A couple of cars got racked up. But so I'm not. So yeah, I mean, to a degree that's true, and I don't know how much of that is attributable to they want to give Biden a break. I'm not sure they do. Maybe they do, but they certainly they're distracted by this COVID thing. And I think my whole coda deals with COVID and how the impact of that around the world. So that's worth reading. But for Ian, especially who hasn't gotten to that part of the book yet, you might want to jump ahead.
So yeah, I did. But the point is that it's not so much that it favors Biden, but it's a different way of thinking about how you deal with a different kind of president.
Yes. Oh, everybody's going to be testing that. I mean, people are holding their breath I was talking to diplomats today and yesterday in France, and they're just beside themselves. I mean, they have no idea what's going to happen now, because not only do they no idea what's going to happen with Biden, they like the people. They like Tony Blinken. They love Tony Blinken. They like Jake Sullivan. They're not really sure yet, I think, about this defense secretary designate, but I think they would like to have seen Michelle Flournoy, frankly.
Yes.
I'm interviewing on Tuesday, by the way, but that's another whole story for a French magazine. But I think that everybody's just really tense, waiting to see what happens and waiting to see what everybody else is going to do. So you're right about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's my sense. People are just taking a breath. I mean, the events, how do the events in the Capitol play then, as people are making a calculation? What did they see?
Well, in fact, you might read my commentary about that just yesterday in CNN. No, it was a very early commentary. So a lot of people, most people were very upset about it. In fact, the German foreign minister came out and said, you remember the Reichstag fire and what happened with Hitler then? Think back to those days. That is the first thing that the Germans thought of course.
Oh.
Yeah. And I said it right publicly at 8:45 at night that night when it was happening, just as it was happening. So yeah, it's everybody is horrified, and everybody is desperately hoping that somehow the genie can be put back in the bottle. and most people are not sure it can be so easily. But they all, again, as you said, already have said, they really do want to hope for the best and give Biden the benefit of the doubt. And I think they're willing to do that. Is Putin willing to do that? Is Ayatollah Khomeini willing to do that? Are the Shiite militia in Iraq ready to do that? Or are the terrorists, the Islamic terrorists in places like Niger and Mali, are they prepared to do that? Or are they waiting to see whether the United States really does make good and withdraw its forces from Africa, which would be just a horrific idea? Trump was even talking about shutting down this entire drone base, which cost us about $500 million to build in Niger just to get all the American forces out. That would be a horrific way of treating red lines. So we have no idea yet how Biden's going to deal with that.
Yes, we are. You are right. We are sort of guessing. Early in your book, you take on this concept that I kind of like. Students of red lines, particularly French political scientist Bruno Tertres, have identified at least 5 different reasons they fail and 6 ways to make them work. They fail largely when the basic structure of crossing them are not clear. Yeah. How many of, I mean, I'm thinking, is it clear with the Iranians? They attacked a Saudi oil facility and nothing happened. They hit a $1 million plus drone and nothing happened. That freaked out everybody in the Gulf. I thought that was a red line. It turns out it wasn't. So what do you have to say about these wobbly red lines?
Well, no, the clarity of red lines is very important. And I'm not sure that those really represent red lines. I like to think sometimes those are really tests of red lines. And Putin has been testing red lines, remember, all around his near abroad for a long time. Mm-hmm. Didn't work out so well in Georgia. He tried it in this the cyber attack in Estonia. That didn't work out so well. So then he pulls back. So people are testing these red lines all the time. I think that there are a few that have done very well. The red line that I wrote about in the book was one of my, I think you may have been off when we were talking about this about Chad. And I write about this extensively because it was one of the first red lines that I actually experienced firsthand. I was there in Chad when they were worrying about Gaddafi coming across the Sahara, heading south into Africa, into sub-Saharan Africa. And Mitterrand said, there is a red line across the sand, and it is just at about the place where the Sahara and the jungle break, which is almost, you could draw that with an X-Acto knife across Chad just about. And he sent the Foreign Legion down, and the Foreign Legion set up shop there. Mobutu came in and brought in Zairian troops, and he reinforced that. He didn't want to see Gaddafi coming down, and guess what? It worked, and it was very clear. And Gaddafi understood that. He saw what was going on, and he did not go any further. So, you know, some red lines work. It worked pretty well in Korea up until, recent until now, really, because the new set of red lines are not the ones that were set up along the 38th parallel at the time of the end of the Korean War. They were new red lines which had to do with nuclear issues and so on. I'm not sure exactly how those are going to play out. I think probably what's going to happen, I think I mentioned that when Ian asked me, or someone asked me a question, but maybe it was you, Deb. I think that we're going to find that eventually the world is going to have to accept that there's going to be some sort of a nuclear capability on the Korean Peninsula. And then we have to figure out just how we're going to deal with that. And that will be how we establish that line will be very critical, I think, going forward, but not immediately.